small-time indie filmmaker walks into a bar and meets with another small-time indie filmmaker to discuss their local films, the film scene, and how to make movies in Tampa, Florida. You get the Film Bar Review. Today we discuss Rocky Mountain Fast Guy.
So here we are, Tim, episode 2, and of the Film Bar Review. We got an interview today, and so what is it, February? It's like almost
late February.
Almost March. Yeah. So I guess this is our February podcast.
If you can get it out soon enough.
Yeah. we'll see.
How fast are you going to put it together?
Let's see how much editing I have to do. You know. But we got, is it McElroy? McElroy, I like that. John McElroy from Rocky Mountain Fast Guy. And how you doing, man?
I'm doing good, man. Sorry I'm late.
He just showed up.
No worries.
No, it's really incredible that we're able to do this. Just having interviews is like something I wanted to do, but I didn't think we could do. But then I thought, like if we really make this a thing where we just honestly want to showcase somebody's work in just an honest, kind of from a filmmaker's perspective, which doesn't always happen out there. You get people who are good at talking and they're radio people, or they're just good at, shooting the breeze on this stuff, or they enjoy film. You get a lot of those people, but you don't get a lot of people who are like nuts and bolts into filmmaking and can really kind of deconstruct how something got made. I really like your film, John, in the sense that it's like funny, but also it's like a journey. It's kind of like
make you laugh, make you cry.
Yeah, it does that.
Go on a road trip? No, I don't.
No, it is. Well, obviously it's a road trip film, it's okay if we spoil the film, by the way, because what we want to do is with this kind of format we've got is we want to feature local films. Generally, those local films are released somewhere, whether it's like on YouTube or anywhere where people can get these films, Amazon, because generally, and a lot of people don't know this, but you can just put your film on Amazon, and it's true that you can't necessarily see it for free on Amazon Prime, but you can release it out there, and then how does it work? If you get enough reviews and you get enough people viewing it, then it can show up on Amazon Prime, something like that, right?
Yeah, you can improve your standing.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, the more people that watch it, and yeah. I guess there's some type of algorithm that knows that. I'm not certain.
Algorithms. We're all learning this word.
Yeah, I'm guessing. But yeah.
Yeah. But it's like, so we want to encourage people to see the film and then listen to the podcast, and then you know kind of what we're talking about, and you can agree or disagree or what have you. But we get to then kind of like totally deconstruct the making of films and all these things. So I guess my first question is, how long has this story been in you to tell? Because from what I've seen, you don't have a lot on IMDb, you don't have a lot of credits, but you did a lot in this film. Like, this film seems like it's part of you in the sense that it's very musical and it's very kind of like who you are. I don't know if I'm wrong about all that.
Yeah. There's some Guy Montaigne in John McElroy, and there's some John McElroy and Guy Montaigne.
Very cool.
So, which is the main character, yeah.
Well, and you also are wearing the same thing that you wore in your film, and I think that's not by design, it's just natural to you. And you've got the same tattoo that was featured in the film.
Right, yeah.
That's really cool.
Wow.
Yeah.
I think that's awesome.
I guess, this, I was a musician, or I am a musician, writing songs and being in bands for a long time. And then I lost my hearing in my right ear in 2009.
Wow.
October 2009, it just went away.
Mm-hmm.
And so I didn't know what it was. I was prepared to go deaf slowly being a musician, but I didn't know you could lose it in a couple hours.
Oh,
And have the
wow.
screeching noise.
I
in
didn't
your
know that
ear.
either.
Yeah, and sudden sensory hearing loss. And
Wow.
so I was devastated, you know what I mean? Because being a musician, you want to hear. And
That helps.
so yeah, I mean, at first it was just, what am I going to do with myself? I'm supposed to stay away from loud music and loud noises and anything like that. And
Good luck, right?
What's that?
Good luck with that, right?
Yeah, I mean, really. So I just needed some other creative outlet, you know what I mean? So I was messing with writing some books and children's books and things like that because I had young kids at the time. And so I just started playing the acoustic again, because I was in rock and punk and metal bands and stuff like that. So I just started writing songs again. And then a friend of mine, Randy, who ended up making a film with me, Randy Wright, he was like, who's this guy in these songs that you keep talking about? And I was like, oh, I guess it is kind of. He goes, yeah, it seems like the same guy. So it was kind of born out of these handful of songs that I had.
Nice.
And then,
like a legend was formed.
Yeah, and I didn't even really know it until he mentioned it. I'm like, yeah, we should make a movie, or we should write a script, So, Googling how to write a script, and because like you said, I've never done any other short films or anything. I just started out with a feature, I guess.
And how long ago was this?
That was when I first started writing the script. Was like 2011.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. So shortly after I lost my hearing, I finally figured out something I could focus on and be creative and research and how am I going to do this but we weren't certain that we were going to make a movie. We were just writing a script, And after a couple beers, you get these great ideas. And,
it's funny how that happens.
So that's where that came from, And then I was friends with Brett Jones. He was he's a musician also, and he had worked on some other films and music videos and stuff like that. So I took the script to him, and he was like, and it was just an idea at the time. And he goes, "Well, you need to write the whole thing." And I said, "Okay." So then I came back a few weeks later, and I said, "Hey, here you go. Check this out."
What do you mean when you said you need to write the whole thing? So it wasn't really fully written?
Right. It was
just kind of like scenes, or
it wasn't even in the script format. I don't think at that time. It was just a story, And so then put it into script format.
And again, how did you meet Brett Jones again?
Brett and I played in bands. He played in his bands. I played in my bands together, and we did shows together. Years prior to that. So,
very cool. Very cool.
Yeah, but I knew he was into film, and he had helped on some local productions and music videos and stuff like that.
Nice.
So another friend of ours, mutual friend, just suggested that I take it to him. He's like, "Hey, you should take this to Brett." And so that's what I did. And so he said, "Well, you need to finish the script." And I was like, "Okay." So I did, and then I brought it to me. He's like, "Oh shit, you wrote a script." And I'm like, "Yeah, right."
You didn't expect that.
Right. So
How many pages was the script? I was thinking about this while we were watching the movie.
I mean,
That's a good question.
We refined it as we went. So I don't even know if it was maybe 90 pages or something like that.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
And so
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
And then
And
we
you
just
added stuff, or
we
You
added
scaled
things,
it back,
changed
or did
things.
it grow from there? From those 90
It kind of
pages?
grew. There was different parts that we took out and other parts we added in because we shot it over like 4 years, I think, or 4.5 years.
Wow,
Getting
yeah.
all the locations and the people and
That's
all this.
great.
So we had a lot of time, which is the luxury of having time. We were able to change things to work as we were filming it.
why did you have so much time? Just because you were in between jobs, or what? What's going on?
It was just getting locations and getting people. We didn't do everything at once in the beginning. It was like, well, I know how this film's going to work. Once I got that grasp of how, it was this character that was going to be, you're going to be with the whole time, then we just had to get each scene and ready as we needed. So then we,
Right.
if we didn't have those people, then we had to take the time to get them,
Yeah.
for each one. For
You're
each,
like slowly
shoot.
constructing this kind of
Right.
real time. Yeah.
Right. So that took time. Getting locations took time. Writing proposals for certain places and learning at the same time. Luckily, Buckley we got him on board. So luckily, he was able to enlighten me a lot in a short period of time.
Yeah.
And
he's a mutual friend of ours.
Mm-hmm.
He helped me shoot my first film, Death to Its Part. Did I tell you that?
yeah, mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think he did tell me that a while ago. We were talking about it. Maybe.
That was like 2012, I think.
Okay.
Something like that.
Right.
So how did you meet Wheat?
On the film networking site.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
Tampa Film Network or
I
something?
think it was Tampa Film Network, or maybe Sarasota had a little one too.
That's right. And he's down
And,
there too, so.
What's that?
He's down there where you are. He's
Yeah.
in Bradenton, right?
Right.
So.
Right. So, and I saw his reel, and he's just got this. He's got his own thing. You know, he's got his own style, and I really thought it was cool. The
He's
way
great.
that he was shooting things.
He's a real artist.
He is. He's a true artist. And so we sent him an email, got in touch with him, met up, had a couple beers, talked about it. I played some of the songs for him that I only had maybe 4 or 5 of them at the time, and he was like, "Oh, these are good." And I was like, "Oh, yeah, you think so?" You know. So he had a little interest in it, and then he read the script, and we just kind of went from there. And,
That's awesome. So it's a long journey, which often filmmaking is, right? You know, funny thing is a lot of people would kind of wince at a 4-year production, and I just don't. That's just normal. Often to me, is when you're really, really, I guess, inspired by something, by some story, you're just going to keep going at it. You know, like you might pause for a little bit, but you just got to keep pushing at it, right? Was that kind of how it felt?
yeah, I mean, you get to a point where you can't stop. You know, and you just have to be persistent and don't give up.
Yeah.
You have to keep going to finish it, and that's not me, by the way.
Who is that back there? Cut it out, guy.
Tim, did you have any thoughts?
Well, for one thing, I'd like to say, I definitely enjoyed the film.
Thanks. Yeah.
Checked it out a couple times there. And just the sheer scope of it, I gotta say, and to hear you say that your production went on for so long and you kept kind of pushing through it, and that's something I can relate to on a smaller level. Just with shorts, they change and they kind of shift, and you're sort of rewriting as you're shooting, and you're figuring out, and you reshoot and you change it around because it's small enough to kind of manipulate in that way. I've never ended up with the same film at the end of shooting that started, in the script.
Yeah.
Ever, period. And it's funny to hear you talk about that on such a large scale with a feature, man. It's like, that's pretty interesting to me, that you would be able to kind of shift around and sort of find your way through it, and that things would be changing as you go.
Yeah, I don't think we knew exactly, or I didn't. Definitely, I did not know what we were doing. I just knew. I've always kind of been that way. It's like I just start doing it. Just start doing it and then figure it out. And like you're saying, changing things on the spot, even, on set, we don't have something, or we're not at the place where we originally thought we were going to be, so we're going to change some lines here and there. And I mean, just right there on the spot, try
It just
this,
came natural for
say
you.
this,
Yeah.
say this instead, or say whatever you want, but we have this if you don't come up,
A lot of people can't do that. Like their precious scripts just can't be soiled like that.
I think it's
how it
cool
goes.
to allow actors some freedom, and I've heard from other people that there are directors that they wanted a particular way, a certain way, but we were kind of more lax with it, and I was like, if you got something, let's try that.
I think you gotta be like that,
Yeah.
Otherwise, I mean, what do you really do? I mean, it is.
Well, especially with comedy.
You're supposed to have people involved with it. People are supposed to kind of be pouring into this thing.
Yeah.
And I've talked to you about this, but I'm a firm believer, man. I think you're almost making 3 different movies. I think you're writing a movie, I think you're shooting a movie, and I think you're cutting a movie.
Yep.
And I
That's
think all
good,
3
yeah.
of them have to be different.
Yeah, they're
And I
going
mean,
to be
obviously,
different,
the
yeah.
final product is what it really comes down to. But if you don't have that room to improvise, especially on a local, smaller level, I think you're in trouble, man. You got to be able to roll with the punches and find those little moments of brilliance, like catch
Yeah.
the lightning in the bottle, man.
It's like you can
gotta be
detect-
pliable in that way, man.
From the outside, if you're watching a director, sometimes you detect that there's the people who play God and there's the people who are like living life.
Yeah.
And it's like the people who play God, they want it to end up the way they imagined it in the beginning. And then the people who are just living life, right, are the ones who are like, okay, this didn't turn out how I expected, but I mean, this is life.
Yeah.
you don't know what you're going to get, like Forrest Gump says, right?
It's a box of chocolate, man.
I hate to say it, but he's kind of right there, guys.
Yeah.
You know.
Like you say, you hear about it, and I always, Hitchcock was notorious for just the script
Yes.
was the movie. And I know the Coens are similar in that way. They say that their script is the movie. Man.
Control
100%.
freaks. Yeah.
And I find that just baffling. And you
Right.
can't say anything against those movies. Like Psycho, I mean, are you serious? That was
Kubrick.
really, that was there on paper, 100%. Like, that's crazy.
Some people, like if they're making good
never seen
films,
it, man.
following this strategy, if they're
Yeah.
if it ends up, somehow it's working, it's okay.
Yeah,
I hand it to you, man.
Yeah.
Like,
hats off to you, man.
Exactly.
If you're that confident, definitely hats off to
before
you.
Before you ever even roll camera, like, know every shot in that kind of way, to where people are just following instruction and not really pouring in. I think you might, I don't know, man, it feels like you might be leaving something on the table there,
Yeah.
but, rather than allowing people
Absolutely.
to collaborate and,
Planning is everything.
influence the
But
production.
you're right about the lightning in the bottle. You're going to get happy accidents. If,
Yeah, yeah, there
if
you
you
go,
let
happy
people
accidents.
be a part of it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Rather than just being like obedient or whatever, I guess. I don't know
Yeah.
what the word is. It's like, but bring them in, ask them what they got. And sometimes that can backfire too, you end up wasting
course,
time
yeah.
because you get too many ideas. So there's,
yeah, for sure.
Balance, man. You got to find it. But I think it helps, man. There's other people thinking too, Hear them out, man. At least.
Yeah,
I wonder
we're
if
definitely
that's-
open to that. Take everybody's best ideas, you know what I
Yeah,
mean?
right.
I wonder
I
if
think
that's really the
kinda
skill.
your job as a director, man. It's like everybody's pouring in.
Yeah.
It's like you're the funnel. Everybody
That's
pours
what I was
in,
just
and
thinking.
It's like you control the stream, but
That's what I was just thinking. Is I wonder if the skill of a director really is just to filter, like you were saying, kind of funnel and filter these ideas into, because you have taste, right? So, which is a really hard word to work with, because it's like, well, what is that really? But I wonder if that's really the job of the director, is just to kind of like filter out the ideas that aren't going to work or just not the right style for this project, and then like negotiate with people in a way that's like where you're not offending people by saying no.
yeah.
You're creating the situation where it's not literally agreement, like working with what is it called? Decisions by committee.
Yeah.
It's not a decision by a committee, but it might look like it from the outside, where it's like everybody's maybe not everybody, but there's a place where when the director's like looking for ideas, and he's accepting, he's like soaking up ideas like a sponge, but then he's like 90% of them he's pushing out.
Yeah.
And it's not an offensive, hopefully he's not offending everybody when doing that, because that's going to make things hard on set.
For sure.
But then he's able to just kind of like focus in on those winning ideas.
Yeah. And I mean, you got to have a vision that's, somebody steering the ship.
Right.
I hope, you got to have
Yeah, you always
somebody,
have to have somebody
And I've
driving.
even heard of some of
Yeah.
the greats where it's like, they're letting people pour in and do things, even though they know that it doesn't work in the beginning. But the idea that it's a process that everybody's kind of going through,
Right.
To allow some things to probably
They
take place.
they believe
that
in the
know
process.
right away is like,
Yeah.
this isn't going to work, but go through it.
Yeah.
It's like if you're there and you got the time, let it.
That's the thing. If
Let
you
it
have
take
the time,
place, right?
then that's when you take advantage of that.
Mm-hmm.
Where it's like we have a lot of other. There's been places where it's like you have 4 hours, and so it's like that's a tighter ship. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
then you're making
Yeah.
calls.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? Kind of bulldozing over some other things. But if you have time, then it's like entertain them a little bit, and you already have your script. It's like we already have this.
Yeah, something you can kind of
Something to
always
fall
go
back
back
on.
to,
Yeah,
right?
we
Yeah.
can go back to this.
Yeah.
We have this. We know this is good or it
Yeah,
works.
it's gonna
but-
work.
Right, it's
Yeah,
gonna work.
yeah.
It's gonna be adequate or it's gonna work really well in some instances, but then it's like, well, I kind of want to see what's gonna happen here, I got to the point where Brett was directing at first because I just didn't have the experience, but as I read and was on set and did other little projects, Eyes of God and all that, and some things like that, then I started watching other people how they were doing it, and then so I got to the point where I would just let the scene fall apart. I wouldn't even say cut. I would just where it was
Yeah.
obvious. It's
this is not
it's
going anywhere.
uncomfortable where people are going, are we done? They're just looking at me and I'm like, oh, okay, cut. now, you know, it's
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
it's been over for 2 minutes, but
You're
we're
feeling it out. You're feeling it out like.
Yeah.
And a lot of times you get something that may be awkward or even just a shot, you know, that's 2 seconds.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, oh, we can use that. That was good, and it was sincere. It was genuine, you know. And
I agree with that philosophy.
yeah,
Yeah.
Most people didn't like it. I guess maybe
It's uncomfortable.
Yeah, but I did.
I think it's supposed to be uncomfortable, like by design.
Yeah,
Really.
It just kind of does it itself there at the end, you know.
Yeah.
If you let it.
Well, like I did direct one comedy, which was Golden Foot, and I kind of felt like feeling out each scene was important, because I think, and this is funny, but I think different genres really are filmed differently, and they require a different philosophy when you're filming. And I think comedy is a very unique genre that way. A lot of times it relies on strong characters, and as a director, or a producer, you have to just kind of let those characters do their shtick, you know, and that's requires respect and love for what they already do. So if you already know what they do, what kind of comedic actor they are, you know how to let them go and do their thing. And if you don't, that can be trouble. But it's like, it gives you room to breathe and grow, let the scene kind of, find its footing. And that's, I think, when you find some really funny moments, because like we were talking about, it gets uncomfortable, right? Well, often that comedy comes out of this uncomfortable feeling. It's like, well, what should I say? What should I do? And then, funny stuff comes out, so it's like, often in Golden Foot, when I was shooting that, it's like we would get to the end of the scene, but the actor's feeling something, and I know they're feeling something. And so, like, the camera guy could be like, what are we doing?
Right.
But like talking to me quietly, like, should I stop? And it's like, no, just, you do the finger thing, you're like, keep going, keep rolling.
Yep.
And by the end of that scene, everybody's like, what were we doing? What was going on there? But you got something interesting in camera, and you can't get that back again. That's the important thing about it, is when the actor's in the moment, it's like emotional stuff comes out of that, which is great comedy too. You can play off of this, any serious emotions, you can play off of it later or stuff like that. So I don't know, like, when did you find that was kind of a style you were working with, or?
Yeah, I just kind of stumbled on it, like about halfway through the filming. Brett wasn't able to be around as much, so I just kind of assumed the duties, of directing, and then Randy also was helping out. So it was a little bit different the way that we did it, I guess, than your typical, chain of command and all this kind of thing. We were just a group of people trying to make something cool.
Yeah, well, you're collaborating, right? So
yeah, you're collaborating. So I think I just stumbled on that on accident, because I just wasn't really. I was more watching it and forgot that I was supposed to say cut.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. So
you're
then
enjoying it.
So once it happened, I was like, oh, that was kind of cool.
Yeah.
And then it's like, I think I'm going to do that again. I'm just going to let that happen.
Like, oh shit, that's my job.
And I'm not even telling anybody, you know what I mean? It's like, you see Wheat look up from the, the camera and stuff, and I'm just like, shrug. Like, yeah, he's just looking at me like,
uncomfortable yet?
Aren't you going to call it? I don't think so.
That's great. Speaking of that, you were talking about, what was your friend's name? Rick?
Randy.
Randy
Wright, yeah.
And you knew him from music, right?
Yeah.
So talk about your music experience.
Just throughout my life, I guess, started playing music late teens. Well, I mean, I played music when I was younger, 5th grade, drums and piano and things like that. But then I started writing songs when I was about 18 or 19. And so did that for a while, and then just jamming with friends and everything. And then maybe in my early 20s is when I was like, I want to do something with music, And like the big dream everybody musician kind of has, I guess.
Sure.
It's
the prime time to do that, right?
Yeah. And yeah, you're young, and you don't have any responsibilities, maybe, or that many. And so yeah, I just been in different bands, and one band would kind of fall apart, and I just started another band, write a new set of songs. I never really kept the same songs with bands. I just kind of let those go, and then I'd start writing a new batch.
That's great.
And different people that you play with have different styles, so it's not really to carry over that, to me, to carry over leftover songs when you have somebody there with something new. I was more interested in that. And
that makes sense. Yeah.
But that's a hell of an ability too. It's like you got guys, great musicians who can't write original music.
And that a friend of mine, Scott, he teases me about that. I've been friends with him since we were teenagers, and he still teases me. He's like, you suck the worst. You're horrible, but you got all these good players around you. I'm like, well, I wrote a song, and these guys that are phenomenal at guitar maybe aren't as good at writing a song.
Exactly.
That's a real thing.
Yeah.
And not saying all my songs were good, but I mean, if you write enough of them, you're going to write a good one, And then being produced later by a guy named Doug Kay, he taught me a lot about writing songs and putting them together and that kind of stuff. I mean, just by doing it, being produced by somebody, you're going to learn a lot. And then I came full circle back to the acoustic guitar, where I started out when I was younger, and kind of doing more of a storytelling type lyrics rather than abstract kind of poetry, I guess, maybe, or something like that. So that's kind of where this Rocky Mountain Fast Guy script was born from. The storytelling of the song. Yeah.
I find that pretty fascinating that it all kind of came from the songs first. Because that was a question I wanted to ask you. It's like, before knowing anything about you, just is it music first and then film, or is it film first and then music? You know, and now it's like, okay, I'm understanding you're kind of the musician first, but then also, I feel like every project you have that initial something, something specific, whether it's a scene or a shot or a line of dialogue or a moment, between people. But to hear that it was the music, that's I don't know, that's pretty cool. I was surprised by that when I heard you say that.
Okay,
yeah. That's pretty. I like that. That's pretty.
Everybody's phone on silent.
I don't know. I thought I did, man.
No, I really love that too. And for example, one of the things we both said when we watched this film was, and you might have heard this before already, John, but I felt it had a very "Oh Brother, Where Art Thou" vibe to it, because it's got a journey, right, and it's got prominent songs, and what is that true?
Was that an influence?
Well, I don't know, maybe not directly, but I mean, I was into Smoking the Bandit and stuff like that.
Oh yeah.
And so I kind of like that feel, or Sling Blade. I think I was talking about that before. I like Sling Blade, which is not necessarily music, but
the prison vibe to it, and the escaping
and I don't know. I guess the music is. I didn't know that's what was going to happen. You know what I mean? So as soon as you get that, then you're hungry for it. Now you're like, oh, okay. So now you start intentionally writing songs to go with the script. Then the script cross-references the songs, and the song is kind of like The Gambler. I've said this before, kind of like The Gambler, but a lot cooler. It's and more rebellious, and
I can see that.
Gritty and
sure.
So and then once you kind of tap into that, now you can bring it all in, and they help each other. The music helps the script helps the music. There's a certain vibe. The audio gives you a feel of what's type of movie you're making.
Exactly.
I'm not sure we knew exactly what type of movie we were making. So yeah.
It just kind of grew naturally from the music and the vibe that you were creating, and the characters you were kind of.
Right, and then you get the actor to play the character that you had on paper, and now that kind of changes. And now you want to enhance whatever they're doing, or maybe steer them in another direction because you can see that they can do that. Maybe it was a serious part before, but now it's not.
Right.
Or something like that. Yeah,
you might find comedy in it, or vice versa.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. So you just kind of, whatever feels good, I think you should chase it down. You should follow it. And then there's so many people that told me when we were making this movie too, they're like, movies are made in post.
Right.
You know, that's where the movie's really made. And I'm like, because I'm looking at every little thing, scrutinizing it, thinking that's going to be in there.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And I'll tell you, it's not. I mean, we shot things and went on location and rented equipment and stuff for things that we shot that we didn't use.
Right.
You know
Oh
what I
yeah.
mean?
Mm-hmm.
And that was tough for me when that came around. And people are like, you got to cut that. You should cut that. I'm like,
Oh, yeah.
oh man, but we rented this crane and we went. You know, it's like you
That
really
can be rough.
Yeah, you got to let it go, and that same thing. Once you start doing it, it gets easier. You're like, you start cutting a little here, cutting. Next thing you know, you're a serial killer. You're like, I'll just get rid of all this.
Yeah.
And I'm
That's
okay
a
with
tough
it.
thing, man. I
Yeah.
think that takes time too, man. It's
Yeah.
like,
It does. You have to
when
ease
you can
into
let
it.
it, give it some time, because in the beginning it's like you're not gonna part ways with those things. It's tough, man. That's a real, like, the whole kill your darlings idea. Totally. That's not an easy thing, but
No, it's really not.
you got to step away, I think, for a little bit and get clear-eyed. And it's like, okay, the movie that we shot is the movie that we shot. Now we're gonna cut a movie, and this is gonna be its own thing.
Right.
And you gotta kind of
And you
break
may
ties with that.
Yeah, and you may have something that you love too. You're like, oh, I love this shot. This is so
Oh,
cool.
I know.
And that makes it even harder.
Absolutely.
Because you're like,
for sure.
now that you have, broad strokes in an edit. Our first edit was really long because we took broad strokes, and but now you have this entire thing, and so you're able to see a bigger picture. So it makes it easier.
Yeah.
But when somebody tells you that in the beginning, you're like, you think we should cut that, really?
Yeah, it is hard.
Yeah. So
I don't think it. I mean, I guess for some people it's easier, but I don't know. For some people, it's like it never gets easier. It's all because you do have a strong vision, right? You have to have this strong vision, and so it's like, in a way, you're required to have things you care about that give you this vision, and then cut those out eventually.
Right.
Eventually,
Especially
But
if you're
some things just don't work, man.
Yeah.
And you might think that it would, and it feels like it should, and then
Then you
you're
get there.
watching it, and it's like, it doesn't fit, man.
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense.
Yeah, and once you get it in the soup, it's all different.
Yeah.
Now it's like, oh well, I don't like carrots that much. You know what I mean?
One of the hard questions is like, for me, it's like, oh, this shot is unnecessary. It's like, well, that doesn't mean I don't want it in there.
Yeah.
It's like, well, it's not getting in the way of the story necessarily. It's just not necessary. Like, it's like a middle ground there where you're like, do I have to get rid of it? But often you do, because really, your emotions are involved, and if you really have a tight story, you're really speaking to the audience quite often much clearer than if you have this kind of like meandering tale that's like has these strong scenes, but that it doesn't necessarily fit all together in a strong way. The tone's not showing through and all these things. So
Yeah,
that's
man,
really
you
cool.
gotta pick your battles, because there's gonna be
Yeah.
some things that you really want in there. Like you say, maybe it doesn't serve the story as much as it ought to, but it's like, you better know that should be there, that it's given some kind of an overall, feeling that, like you
Yeah.
say, because you are maybe going off, meandering a little bit, getting sidetracked. So it better work, because it's you're taking away from the story a little bit. And at the end of the day, I mean, that's sort of what you're doing.
So
Yeah, or
what-
that little piece that it better have some type of significance to it.
Yeah.
Even if it's its own entity, has nothing to do with the story, but that better be something cool.
Yeah.
Right.
I kind of felt like that about one of my favorite parts of the movie overall was the Mexico bit. At first, I'm like, what the
Yeah.
hell are we doing in Mexico, man? It's like, it didn't make sense to me, It was like, but it was like, damn, that guy's a hell of an actor, for one thing.
Oh yeah.
Who's that?
Yeah.
I mean, man,
Yeah.
I
I
thought that
forgot his
guy
name.
Felipe Fernandez, Diego.
Shoot, man.
He's great, man. He
He
was
was-
in Narcos.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Cool.
he got
kidding.
that bit using a reel from our movie. So
Nice.
which was cool. And he lives in
Oh, that's really cool, yeah.
he lives in Brazil. He goes back and forth. But yeah, he was great. When he showed up,
Dude,
a friend
I
of
was-
mine knew him, a friend of a friend of a friend, and said, "Hey, we know this guy because we're like, well, we're looking for a Hispanic actor that
Yeah.
badass." And so he shows up, and he comes in, and he's just a nice guy, just very cool. But as soon as we were like, okay, let's run through this little table read, and he was right in character, and it was like,
He transforms.
that's the people right away
Yeah.
when you're looking at him. You're like, You just look at each other like, yeah.
He knows what he's doing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
was
very
good.
menacing,
I thought that was
menacing
good.
part.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he is a great actor.
That was one of my favorite little parts of the movie. And it's like, and I could feel how maybe you would almost be thinking, you know, I mean, like you say, we're going to spoil it regardless. But obviously it makes sense because that's what comes back around at the end. That's like, he gets his comeuppance.
Right.
And they're sort of the, you know, they're the, you know, the perpetrators of that. But when you're watching it, it's almost like, well, what are we doing here? But with that guy on screen, it was like, okay, man, he was like very, very talented guy. I thought,
Yeah.
man, I thought he really sold that. I just like the vibe and the feel of it all, that whole bit, you know, in the movie. I enjoyed that part for sure.
It really accomplished,
an
I think, what you were trying to accomplish, which was probably like, you know, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's kind of like you're building suspense and you're letting people know this guy's really dangerous, first of all. And then it's like, obviously, they have to make such a strong impression early on to where later on they end up being the end of part of the end of the film, you know, so they have to be menacing enough to where it's like, this could happen later on.
And
Right.
throughout the
You know.
process
But you
of
don't-
like the cat and the mouse, like they're getting closer and closer. You have to fear what is getting closer and closer. So we got to see that and experience it. And,
Right.
You know, and I think it's
Right, you have to establish that, and you're right. We definitely tried to show how unhinged this guy is, and then as the movie goes on, maybe you kind of forget about him, you
Right.
kind of forget about them,
yeah.
but then you remember.
They come back. Yes. I liked the scorpion bit too, because I just would not have thought about using a scorpion that way.
That was Brett's idea.
That's great.
Yeah, I thought so too, and so we had to make that happen. Yeah.
Because the whole time you're thinking, what is the scorpion doing in his mouth? Like his,
It's like this poor bastard. They're having this like, you know, conversation, and this poor guy, he's just sitting there with a scorpion in his mouth.
It's just more of showing how tormenting that.
Yeah.
And then it's just like, you know, he
Yeah.
just blows the guy away.
Right.
It's like, oh shit.
in
man.
a way,
So,
in a way, it was
with a
like we're
scorpion in
leaving.
his mouth, you know?
It was funny because it was Brett's idea, and on set he got stung by the scorpion.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and it was Emperor, but most people
Right.
don't know
The bigger ones are not
scorpions.
as
Right,
dangerous,
you just
yeah.
see scorpion and you're like, oh geez, but actually the smaller ones are the ones that
There's
are
a line in
lethal.
the movie where it's
Yeah.
like, is it big? Then it's no big deal. I forget what the hell movie it is.
Right.
But anyhow.
Right,
Go ahead, keep
but that's
going.
what you
They
would
sure
think.
are
is
scary,
the
though.
Like
more
you would think
menacing.
it's like, oh shit, but no,
Yeah.
it's the little guys they say that.
Right.
It's a line in a movie somewhere. I swear.
I guess it was just like a high-end wasp sting or something, but yeah.
Okay,
But it was
yeah.
just funny. I laughed because I'm like, well,
It was
you-
his-
you-
it was
you
his
wanted a
baby,
scorpion.
right?
Yeah.
So plus the whole time, it's like the beauty of that too is the way you shoot it. He's right behind, you know, he's in the background where these guys are talking. So you're still thinking about this poor guy.
Right, and he still
While
has it in
they're
his
talking.
mouth or whatever.
Yeah. He's like trying to stay
Like, they're
as
not
still as
looking, dude.
possible.
Spit it out. You know?
That was great. And it's funny that we're laughing about this guy with a scorpion in his mouth. That's the beauty of comedy, isn't it? It's like these strange situations, you know, and they just become funnier. Even if they're dangerous or like, you know, hurtful, it's like it's just another reason to laugh,
Right.
you know?
It's the uncomfortable
Mm-hmm.
laughter. Are we
Exactly.
allowed to be laughing?
The guy died.
Yeah.
It's so terrible.
See him get shot. That was nice.
But like, I liked some of the jokes too, like some of the little gags, like WSUK and
Okay.
Paso Gaso. You know?
Yeah.
Did that stuff happen in the script, or did it happen like later on?
Yeah, just as we were preparing for those, like I said, we would just, and that's when I would really focus right before we would shoot that, you know, that scene. That's when I'd start going over and trying to refine stuff, and we'd get together and sit around, and those things would just pop out. Or even on set, it was like, you know, well, how about you say this? And I'm like, that's great. Yeah, get one of those.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Or, and some of it was just like, to, you know, just for our own entertainment. Like,
Yeah.
you think anybody's going to hear WSUK and understand, you know? So that I'm glad that you picked that up, you know, because that's one of
Yeah.
those ones that kind of flies by, you know, and I don't know if everybody catches all that, you know, those little things in there.
It
that-
makes it fun, you know. For the people who are paying attention, it's
Yeah, if
like
you're
little
paying attention, you'll
little
catch it.
laughs come out, you know.
Right. And then there were some personal little gags in there too that just like my family and friends, like the story in Lillian Judd's house about how she was running down the hallway and she slid on her bed.
Oh
And there
yeah.
was dog shit on her bed. That's
That
true
really
story.
happened?
That was my sister after church one day when we were kids. She was all crying and whining about something. She ran down the hall. She slid on the bed in her yellow dress and the dog had shit on her bed.
Oh wow.
So I was like, oh man. So as soon as I watched that with my sister,
awesome.
she just looked at me, you know, like, yeah, really?
Really? You're gonna go there?
Right.
But that's what sisters are for, right?
That's right, yeah.
Yeah.
Why stop now, you know? Stop tormenting her now? No.
That's right.
Yeah.
No, that's awesome. I like hearing that, you know, because to me, I feel like with comedy, and it's true I've only shot one comedy, but it's like, that's the beauty of shooting comedy is it's like you get to just have tons of fun on set coming up with gags. You know, so luckily you're all in the same kind of vibe, you know, when you're shooting, especially the actors and the director. It's like you're all on the same page with this kind of mood and tone of like just hilarity or jokes or whatever it is, you know. It could be situational comedy or it could be like, you know, all in the script. But you know, if you got a good script, which I think you really had a good script, you know.
Yeah, we did. I mean, we had a good script. I mean, I was happy with what we were working with, but it was great to just, you know, adjust as you went. You know,
Yeah.
it was.
It just makes it more fun, you know.
Yeah, and I think you're right. You know, when you're all there together and it's spontaneous, and somebody says something, it's like
Let's shoot it.
that's the most it's going to be funny, or the most it's going to be when it happens. You know what I mean? Like the first time you write a riff, it's the best it ever sounds. You know what I mean? And the more you play it, it just becomes. I've heard this, but when you first come up with it, you're like, wow, that's
a
really
good point.
you know?
Yeah.
So it's kind of the same feeling, you know, with being spontaneous on set and just going, let's do that. And if everybody's like, okay, you know, or sometimes maybe it's just me or somebody else going, that's hilarious, we should do that. And they're like, no, let's not. You know, okay, you know. So you got each other to keep each other in check. You know, just be honest. You know, with each other.
Yeah, comedy feels like it kind of lends itself to really allow for that kind of thing to take
Yeah.
place. Maybe more so than, you know, drama or
Totally.
serious shit.
Or action. You got to plan action up pretty
Yeah.
well. Yeah.
You better
Right.
have it blocked out, man. You got a lot going on.
So let's see. Was it shot in Mexico?
No.
Okay.
No, and that's funny because there have been people that have said to me, they're like, I can't believe you guys went to Mexico. You know.
Well,
And,
Florida's not that far off in many ways.
No, I mean you've got to search between the manicured palm trees. And,
Very
But
manicured.
there was somewhere else too. We were watching. It was like a night shot, I think, maybe, and you're driving down the road, and it felt like a western landscape. Did you guys get out of the state of Florida?
That
Or was
was
everything in Florida?
That was stock footage.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it kind of had that stylized feel to it. So I'm not sure how many people actually thought that was, were convinced that was real.
Yeah.
Or maybe they
No, it
think-
looked pretty real to me. I mean,
Yeah.
Yeah, I, mean,
Yeah,
I
it
remember a
worked.
couple times feeling like, and especially one was a night shot. I think it was just like headlights driving, and you're seeing
Yeah.
like the brush and the shit on the sides of the road, and
Right.
it felt like being out west, somewhere in like a.
And yeah, that was the point,
Yeah, yeah.
because
Yeah, I mean, you got to get
Texas and
out there, yeah.
Arizona.
that makes sense too because I remember this one shot. I think it was the front of the Camaro, the blue Camaro, and I think your face is in there, and it does look a little like a visual effects shot.
Yeah.
That one, and it's probably because you could see the actor, you could see you pretty well, like too well.
Right.
Do you know what I mean?
And that's what I mean by stylized. I mean, put like a, what did they say? David Lynch or something like that, I guess somebody was saying. I'll tell you the most impressive thing about the Mexico scene was when my character's crossing the border. And so that's stock footage too. And what we did is we rolled a big green screen on wheels. And we just made sure that the day we did it, we're like, hey, there's going to be overcast tomorrow. Wheat's like, it's going to look the same. We need to have. So we did. So we went there and then we shot it. We had a couple guys just roll it, and then Wheat worked his wizardry on that somehow, man, his sorcery, and got that.
I'm trying to think back. I don't.
Yeah.
It's only a few seconds. It's maybe a 4 or 5 second shot, but it looks legit. I mean,
That's
even to
great.
the point of looking through the car that passes by, looking through the window. So I mean, you can do
yeah.
well. I can't, but there's people that can do stuff like that, like
Yeah.
Wheat, who are amazing.
He is. And he does almost everything, doesn't he?
He does. We were
camera,
saying that.
lighting, visual effects, editing, sound. I mean, I think he's producing now too. I mean, he's doing a lot of stuff.
That's the thing. At the premiere of our movie, we were like, Wheat is everything. I mean, we had shirts made up and everything, and that wasn't a lie. I mean, there was a point in the beginning where he was doing everything. You know, he was like, he'd set up the sound. You know, here, hold this. You know, and then Brett and him would move the lights. And I'm just thinking of one particular night. There was only like 4 of us there shooting stuff, and he was just running around doing everything. And
Yeah, he's just like that, man.
I didn't understand how he
Sorry,
could.
now I have this image of the T-shirt of Wheat. Like a T-shirt basically that's like, it could be any color, but it's got these sheaves of wheat.
Right?
And then it's got his face superimposed over the wheat. And then it says, "Wheat is everything" on the
like
bottom. Doesn't
Yeah,
that sound good?
Yeah.
I think we should make that for him.
Yeah.
That'd be.
He
we
deserves it.
love you. You're amazing. And Mary Jane too. She did a great job.
Yeah, she's awesome.
Yeah, she was incredible. She worked on our short film Goldenfoot, and again, which is a silly comedy. But she was the kind of heart of the short in a way that, because she was the mother of the lead character, and she shows up in the end, and to kind of like bring it back to center. But for you, I think she did an incredible job with the accent.
Yeah, like I said, she took it to heart. And when I first met her in the minivan audition in the parking lot of Cracker Barrel, you know, she was prepared. And it was a Saturday morning, and you know, rolled in there, set the little camera up, and she didn't look at the script or anything. And I just remember, you know, doing lines with her, and as we're doing them, I was kind of forgetting what I was doing because I was watching her, and she was just so good, and I was convinced that I was just like, okay, I'm like, yeah, this is Mama. We got Mama.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
That must have felt pretty good to see somebody kind of dedicate themselves to the
Yeah.
lines, like you say, to just know the material, you know,
Right
when you
out of the
first
gate,
sat down.
too.
And this is
Yeah.
before you rolled.
Yeah,
anything,
this is before
right?
we pressed record. Yeah, because she was one of the. That was the first scenes that we recorded, or you know. So, yeah, so it was great just to see her right out of the gate, no holding back. Our first time, she laid right into it. You know what I mean?
Speaking of first time, so I mean, you could say this is the elephant in the room, but it's like, this is your first film. This is basically your only film, and it's really decent film. I mean,
Thanks. Yeah. Yeah, we tried real hard. Yeah, I mean, I just I knew other people that did shorts and things like that, but I guess I didn't really think about it. You know, it just when I got into it, the idea was a feature length movie, and then you know the soundtrack and everything. You know, that's what kept me going, thinking that we're gonna have a soundtrack and it's gonna be a feature film. You know. So I guess I didn't really know you were supposed to make shorts first.
I know, right?
You know, so
And not only like your first film, but the scope of it alone. I mean, the
It's
road
ambitious.
trip movie, that's a
Yeah.
lot of locations. That's a lot of big actors, you know?
I think if you did know what you were getting into, you might not do it. You know what I mean? So I think I'm
Yeah,
lucky
it's a
that I
good point.
didn't know.
Yeah, just kind of.
Yeah, and then when, like I said, when you get halfway through, now you know what you've gotten yourself
Yeah.
into, and then you're like, what did I get myself into? But there's no, in my case, I was like, there's no stopping. We got to finish this one way or another, however long it takes.
Yep.
You know?
Damn the torpedoes.
And you end up, and at the end, it was just Wheat and I sitting there editing and doing all that, you know. So,
How long was editing?
I mean, we did it in,
Like
I
2
can't-
years or something?
I didn't really keep track. Yeah, I mean, off and on, going back and changing things, cutting things down, you know, adding sounds and doing ADR for certain things. You know, that's one thing I can tell you that I learned is very valuable is sound is very important.
Oh man,
I
yeah.
remember being in the strip club scene and there was a refrigerator running or something, a cooler, and Wheat was like, you're going to be able to hear that. And I was like, let me see. I was trying to listen.
It's
in
true,
the headphones,
yeah.
And I was like, nah, we're good. And he's like, you're going to hear it.
Those kind
Yeah.
of hums are brutal, man. Oh, God.
Yeah.
And
They
it'll
really
take
are,
the
man.
it'll take the viewer right out of the movie.
Yep.
So when we had that, then I was like, oh man, I see what you're saying. So then we had to rebuild that
Yeah.
ADR. and
Man,
sound.
I've dealt with this in a scene where a simple shot, reverse shot over like a deli counter. You've seen it, and a little sushi joint, and it's
Oh, yeah,
two guys talking, and it picks up the hum for the one side of that and not for the other one. So as we're cutting back and forth, it's like,
Oh, you'll notice that in a second.
it's like, you son of a bitch.
That's
And
prime
I'm not a sound
voiceover.
guy, and it's like, geez,
Yeah.
I'm sure that was an easy fix, but at the time I was like, I just pushed it through and just
Yeah,
moved
'cause
on.
they-
But it's like, man, those hums really kill you.
Oh, they
man.
do.
I remember as a kid shooting stuff, and it's like the AC units
Yep,
on the sides
it'll
of
kick
houses,
in.
man. It's like we're having this heavy moment, and all of a sudden, it's like
You don't even notice
man,
it
like,
at first,
come
and then
on, man.
bam.
Or planes in the air, It's
Yeah.
like
Yeah,
how,
we
you
did
never
that
know how
too.
many planes are in the sky until you're trying to shoot a movie. You're like, you son of a
So
bitch,
true.
what are you doing up there? It's like,
And you're like, wait.
yeah,
Ready to
hold
swing?
on, you
Yeah.
got another freaking plane. You gotta
Well, and this
wait
is a
it out.
Florida thing too,
It's tough,
because
man.
we'll be shooting indoors, and then it's like, oh no, we're gonna have to turn the AC off to shoot this.
Shut
and
it
then
down,
it
and
gets
everybody's
really
sweating
terrible
their asses off.
because you got
Yeah.
hot lights, you got 10 people in a room going in and out, right?
Excuse me. Oh yeah.
And so you're wondering why everybody's sweating. Well, that's the reason.
We had our
It's
boom
tough,
guy, Mike Lennox, he's a longtime friend of mine, and he was great because we'd just be looking at him, waiting for the signal. Like he's got the headphones on, and it's like, can you still hear it? Can you still hear it? And then he, once he was like, okay, we're
Good
good.
to go. Yeah.
So everybody's all eyes on, and we call him Boom Mike.
Nice.
Boom Mike. Yeah.
Good Mike. But there is one thing technically about a lot of that sound problem that a lot of people don't even know. It's called room tone. You got to get room tone. And so the thing about room tone is it's supposed to be the sound of the room that you're acting in. And so it's kind of manufactured in a way. Like a lot of people think it's like, oh, well, get the sound of the room we're in now, and that's true. Just like the sound we've got now, it's got a dog coughing. It's fun. Room tone. But what you can also do is manufacture it in a way. In other words, if your room tone is off and you have really good mics and you're just getting the very specific sound of the dialogue. And then what you can do is oftentimes you can create room tone later.
Yeah.
So you'll manufacture your room tone, which sounds better or whatever, and then you'll lay that over in post. But you got to have good mics to do that. You got to get just the people acting, and if you can't do that, you got to do voiceovers. So it's all like constructed later on,
Voiceover
essentially.
is tough, man, and it's funny to think about a lot of early, different European cinemas like neo-realist, French New Wave. Most of those movies are done entirely voiceover.
All voiceover, yeah.
ADR, everything, and that blows my mind to think about. I mean, imagine trying to
You've got to.
re-record
Yeah.
every single line of dialogue and build out an entire soundscape from scratch.
Well, in a way, it's like
mean,
just like
that's-
John making his first
Jeez.
film, not knowing what he's getting into. It's like I think that was a little bit of the factor there, is that they just thought, well, we're going to make this, and they don't realize that it's hard, so they just move
It's
forward
hard.
anyway.
It's like, man, you're dealing with limited resources, which is a similar thing that we deal with. It's
If
like
you don't know any better,
trying to piece
it's just
together, they're putting all kinds of film stocks together to get these things made in like war-torn countries.
It
and
made a whole
they just
movement.
had to build out that
Yeah.
sound.
Yeah,
and
that's
post.
amazing.
That's crazy, man. That's intense, and like dialogue-heavy pictures too. Not,
we need another one of those film
That's
movements.
crazy, man.
We need another one, man, because it's gotten really. I don't know. I think Hollywood's gotten a little bit off subject, but it's like Hollywood, and I think a lot of it is just the COVID thing going around. Is that people aren't going to theaters? They're not releasing films. You're releasing it on VOD or whatever, but it's not the same thing.
It's
just
man.
not.
It's
Yeah.
all changing, and it's like, where is it even going to end up? Where does the bus stop, man? Where's this going to go?
It's like it's not even art anymore. It's just like an overplayed and recycled kind of culture. That's what it feels like to me. Kind of like the whole Star Wars thing, where they brought back Star Wars and they just oh, it's okay. They brought back stores and they just keep recycling it. You know, they're trying to make something new, but they just can't.
They can't
accomplish
find it
it
within themselves to make something new. It's all just remakes. It's sad, man. Yeah. It's sad. It's like really, like, you know, out of that think tank, you guys can't come up with something, you know, wholly original.
All the millions
and
of
not
dollars.
even like wholly. It's not like you're expecting to, you know, make a new genre. Like just make new content within well-established genres. We can't manage this. Like we have to remake everything that we grew up with as kids.
Yep.
That's the only way to try to, you know.
Well, that's
what the hell is that?
You know, that's where's the renegades? You know what I mean? They're going with what they know is safe and that people know, so they're gonna.
The money guys, right?
Right.
Yeah. So where are the?
You know, where are
the artists, the real artists,
Napoleon Dynamites, and you know, things like that, where they don't know if it's going to work or not.
Right.
You know, and that's more exciting, I think, than
absolutely
saying, well, we know people are going to watch this because they watched the previous one, and it's, you know, I don't know.
It's like a handful of people making quality films out
there.
Yeah, these days,
it does feel that way. And I think most of them are not Americans anymore. They're just really incredible, whether it's a Korean filmmaker or whether they're from Africa or whether they're like South American or like Mexican. It's just like incredible filmmakers out there, and they're blowing us away. But we've got all this money and we don't know what to do with it. We're just throwing it at these old myths and changing the myths around and making them irrelevant, which is what Disney does really well. I admire what Disney was doing for a while, but then now it just seems like, okay, they've got the same old myths and they're recycling them in a way that kind of really removes the vitality from them. You know, removes the moral of the story often, you know, just to make it kind of like formulaic. You know, they've always got the princess thing and all this stuff.
It's got to fit the, you know, like you say, it's got to fit the formula.
It's a money-making formula they've got.
Exactly.
So that's what it is. You just plug in the same numbers for their formula and they make $1 billion, you know.
And every once in a while you get the one that peeks through all that, where it's undeniable because they're not, it's being ran by the people. The people want to see it in word of mouth or however it gets around. You know, I'm trying to think of an example, but I guess maybe, you know, Blair Witch or something, but that's been a while. But that was one of those things where that was genius marketing, you know what I mean?
I remember growing up. Yeah, and it's like, you don't know. I remember being at that age when that movie came out, and it took a while before it really came out, the idea that this was fake. And I mean, I was a bit younger, but we really thought that was legit, you know? And it's like, put two and two together, dummy. Like, how did this footage ever get found? How did it get cut together? You know, how did it become a movie? Like, come on, bro, it was never real. But, you know, I remember being a kid and thinking that it was a real movie. I mean, I forget how old I was. I'd have to see the release date.
I think we all
of that
bought
movie,
it.
You know?
Yeah. It was,
I think I was like 10 or 11 or, you know,
brilliant marketing,
there. And like History Channel and those kind of plays were backing it up with like little mini docs about the Blair Witch, you know, and it was like, it was all built up, this whole thing. And I mean, that came out of UCF, man. Those people went to where, you know, that was like our claim to fame, man.
They're still around making films too, like, I'm pretty sure, these guys.
Yeah.
And
but,
it's,
you know,
it's that vibe though, or that, you know, that idea where it doesn't matter, you know, Hollywood or anything like that. They're gonna see their way through. They're gonna push their way in, you know, because people are curious, and the more people that find out about it, they want to see it. You know what I mean? Where they're not already being presented something that everybody knows. You know? There's more mystique. You know, especially something like that. You know?
It definitely gives you an opportunity to kind of catch people off guard and make something new from that. And then, of course, you get the other horror genre, what do they call it? Found footage, I guess.
Right, found footage. Right. And I mean, those are, you know, a genre is a perfectly viable thing to work with. And you're even talking, you know, you're saying, oh, well, there's no reason why people shouldn't even be able to break out. And those are people on the fringe, man. That is a super outsider. There's no reason why the well-oiled manufacturing machine, the assembly line, cannot still make viable art. I mean, it's happened. I mean, Hollywood system has been doing it for decades, you know, in that massive, you know, industrial complex of making films. There were filmmakers and artists coming through it and putting their visions through and finding a way to, you know, impact the world of film, you know, all over. I mean, all those guys, man, the French guys, you know, we talk about all the time, John, but I mean, they go back to Ford and Hawks in Houston.
Yep.
And all these filmmakers that are American and in the Hollywood system, you know, hardcore in that massive complex.
Yeah, we've talked about
the
that.
assembly line of filmmaking. There's no reason why that still can't surface. So why is it not happening anymore?
One of the things we didn't talk about
Strange thing.
about that was like, what do you think occurred to stop all that? Like in all the studying you've done about it. 'Cause I
Yeah.
know you've studied it more than
I
me.
gotta tell you, I mean, I push this guy on you hardcore. And if you care about film like it seems like you do, man, there's a really great resource out there on YouTube, totally free. It's MIT Open Courseware. There's a guy who's got basically an entire history of film course available online, totally free, all the lectures.
That's
I
great
mean, you
stuff.
got like 20 hours of this guy just pouring his heart out into talking about all these subjects and going from film in its infancy and where it started, you know, and how it started, just the kind of like the amazement, the wonderment of the moving image, and starting from there and getting to, you know, up to date pretty much. But he goes into all this stuff, man, and it feels like there was a trade-off what film gave up to become more like auteur driven, you know, and not so much the focus of the country. Like we were just saying this the other day, it's like, I think it was something like 75% of Americans were going to see a movie every week. Every single week, you know, and some people multiple times a week. I mean, it was a massive audience, you know, and it was, of course, it was more controlled, you know, as opposed, like what content was allowed to go out there, you know, they dealt with more restrictions and that kind of thing, but the real, you know, artists were able to find a way to work, you know, show what they want to show without being so obvious about it and being so blunt or being so direct with it, you know. And there was some traded off, I think, in there somewhat to steer more into the idea of an auteur or somebody who's able to put whatever they want on the screen. I think film kind of let something go to television, and television became more so the center of the society as a whole, you know, American society, and where they went to consume their, you know, their entertainment that kind of reflected the values of their society in a way.
Yeah, I
And
wonder
he
if-
goes pretty heavy into that stuff, man. I mean, dig into it, because the guy, he's really intelligent, really older guy, but just passionate about what the hell he's talking about, man. I sat through a few of these courses in college, man, and it was like, I never heard somebody teach it like this, you know?
Yeah.
I heard the same points, but not in the same way, man. The guys at
Yeah,
MIT
enthusiasm
Open
makes a
Courseware,
difference,
dude,
man,
is like,
you know.
It's a hell of a resource. It's just there. Just found it online. I mean, he goes through all these different. I love the Western. He goes into the Western. There's like 2 different hours about the Western, and he digs into that. And, you know,
That's a major
it's just-
history, yeah.
Oh man, it's awesome. But anyhow, I don't want to get too sidetracked. But
No, I
yeah,
just think it's
feels like
interesting.
there's no reason that we shouldn't be able to still be making quality stuff out of even a massive system like Hollywood. It's like,
Well, there is something happening which
done it.
we call it the democratization of filmmaking. That's what we call it, and a lot of it's technology driven. You know, like you've got the DSLR cameras and these cameras for like a few $1,000s. You can make
it's
a
like
feature
a
film.
revolution.
It's crazy. Yeah, but I think that the larger
Power in
concept,
people's hands, man.
the larger concept is like basically centralization versus decentralization. So it's like you have a centralization of money and marketing dollars and the stars, you know, they're all contracted under these studios and all this control that these studios have. And then you've got people that just want to make art. And maybe those artists are getting pushed out of these studios, right? Because the studios can't necessarily control them. So, you know, sometimes they can, sometimes they can't, etc. And so it's like these artists are really the ones that make vital art. You know, like they're really, in a way, as it comes to monopolies, how monopolies go, is like the studios have the money, but the artists have the talent. And they can monopolize this talent. It's only natural because the talent is in them. So it's like, basically, with democratization, it allows the artists to regain the control of films. And why we're not doing that more, I don't know. But I think there's kind of a pandering aspect almost to where we're just used to catering to Hollywood's needs. We're used to trying to get the big bucks. We're used to trying to basically appeal to somebody else and their sensibility as opposed to our own as artists. So I think with democratization, the beauty is that we can regain again our belief in the art for art's sake, as opposed to, trying to play to the money. And this is one of the beautiful things about your film, John. I think it's art, and it's about telling the story. It's just very simple about telling this guy's story, and it's not about anything, dishonest or ungenuine, or it's not some kind of a cash grab or anything like this. It's just very genuine storytelling.
Yeah, thanks. I think that that maybe people, studios, well, same with music. I mean, they used to take chances on people, on projects.
Yeah.
They're willing to lose money, or if something really
Invest.
big is going to happen. Yeah.
Yeah.
So maybe that, the sure thing isn't really working out so much for art. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Even though some of these movies, they are good, they're fun to watch one time with your family or something like that. Some of them not so much. Some of them are really horrible, and then you hear about their budget, and you're like, wow.
Yeah.
What I could have done with that.
Right,
or
exactly.
How
somebody
could you
else,
even try to spend that much money? It's like
Yeah.
you can't even conceive it because you don't know
It'd
the
be
ins and outs
difficult,
of it.
wouldn't
But
it?
it's like it feels like there's been this gap that's been created between like film, quote unquote, and like what we're trying to do.
Yeah.
You look at these people and you're like, how could you even possibly spend that much money on a movie?
You're spinning someone's nest egg. Every time you make a film, it's somebody's nest egg is getting
But to hear like
thrown out the window.
hundreds of millions of dollars, it's inconceivable amounts of money to me in my mind. It's like, does it take that much money to make a movie that people will pay to go see?
I don't think it does.
I don't think it does. I don't think it comes even close to it, man. It's the sick thing is that a low budget film, and I remember like the mid 2000s, there was a lot of these happening, like Jesse and There Will Be Blood, and No
Yeah.
Country, and all these different movies. They were low budget
it's an
movies. They were
indie, low
$25
budget.
million pictures.
Right.
Yeah.
$25 million. That's a low budget movie. Like, what do you call my short? Like,
Yeah.
is there even a term for that thing, man? Like,
And the funny thing is when you said that, I was even thinking 250,000. I was like, even that, it's like,
yeah,
that's
it's
a
like,
lot
that's
of money, man.
insane,
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, so you put some names out there, and I get it. So those people are proven professionals, and they can, bring something to the table. That does not mean that you cannot find viable talent on a smaller level that's not going to cost millions of dollars to get attached to your project. There's
Right.
no reason why that it can't be done, and it's just kind of it kind of leaves me at a loss for like why can't we like kind of gather and try to make something? Why isn't more happening on a smaller, like kind of local level, to really make an impact? Or like
Like
put
we're
a
talking
dent in
maybe-
the system a little bit?
Maybe a 50 grand film, something like that.
Yeah. I mean,
25, 50 grand.
Well, even like I was saying, Napoleon Dynamite. What was that? $400,000 or something?
I think something like that.
Somewhere around there. I thought it was great.
Oh, awesome.
You know,
yeah.
I thought it
I can
was.
say I've never really seen the movie.
It's a lot of fun.
And,
My wife loves that movie.
yeah.
Yeah, I took my daughter to it, and she's
Never really seen it.
She's like
Bits and
26
pieces.
now, but I mean, I took her to see it, and at first, when we saw it in the theater, and I had read about it, and I was like, yeah, I want to see that. So we went and saw it, and I still thought it was great. I was like, this is awesome, so unique, and just
Yeah.
just a lot of different
Yeah.
things about it. And so she didn't really get it. She was like, okay, after we saw it. But then maybe a month, 2 months, 3 months later, whatever, she's with her friends. I hear her going, oh, you should see Napoleon Dynamite. And I'm like, oh, now
You
you're
didn't
on
get
board.
it.
You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah.
So it's like, it may take time for people to get something. It's not going to be instant. It may take time for it to run around and get where it needs to be to find an audience.
It grew on her.
Yeah, and it grows on you, So I thought that was really cool,
It's the best kind of comedy, because it's like an interesting situation and these really unique characters you've never seen before.
And those weren't big actors. I mean,
No, they were nobodies.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
everybody who was in that sort of then like springboarded into something else. But I don't think it had anybody, right? Like,
I-
no, like known names, right?
Yeah, I'm trying
Yeah.
to think if there was anybody that.
I think John Heater is the guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I haven't seen him in a lot, but he is fun still. He does.
He did a few
still does
things
some
after
fun
that.
stuff.
I remember the kid who plays
He did that.
maybe Pedro.
Blades of Glory.
Oh yeah, with
Because
yeah.
McElroy is the last name, that's why I remember that. Yeah.
And then the director-
Isn't there a Pedro in that movie, right?
Yeah,
Younger
Vote for
guy?
Pedro.
I think I've seen that kid
I've
in
seen
movies,
Pedro and some,
you know,
things,
some
a
stuff
couple other
since,
things, yeah.
you know. So hey,
I feel bad for the director though because he's obviously really talented and he has made more films, but it seems like nobody cares. Whenever he makes a film, nobody watches it. Nobody, you know, like. And some of his more recent stuff has interesting stuff to it. It's just
I don't even
you know,
know. I'm not familiar with the guy, man.
comedy is a tough genre because it's like when you hit kind of halfway, everybody just like pans it entirely. There's nothing of any merit in the film. And there's obviously great stuff. Like if you just take it scene by scene, it's like there's a lot of comedy films. It's like because really, but then everybody hates it and dumps on it for some reason. But then other genres, it's like if you got like an action movie and there's like no action except one amazing action scene, it's like this is the greatest action movie ever. You got one great action scene, you know. But you get a great scene with comedy and everyone's like, oh, whatever. You know?
I think that comedy, in some ways, you know, on a large scale, is just. I don't. For me personally, you know, as far as I'm just not a comedy guy, man. I don't go out to the movie theaters for comedies, you know, and I think that genre suffers from that a little bit. That, but at the same time, it's like most kind of entry level people watching movies are like, that's their thing, man. They're all going for comedies, you know. It's like. You know, I would
It's
feel
easy,
like left
you
out in
know?
conversations. It's like, oh, did you see this one? Did you see that one? It's like,
It's the different types of comedy, too.
Yeah.
Which,
Yeah.
you know,
the
breaks off.
mainstream kind of, I feel like, is due for an overhaul, man. You know, there were some good times,
yeah,
like in
yeah.
the mid 2000s, like Anchorman, and you know when
Yeah.
when Will Ferrell was hitting it and Paul Rudd was coming in and Seth Rogen. I mean, there was some solid comedy,
Oh, yeah.
worth watching. You know, 100%. And it felt fresh, and it kind of felt new in its own little way, like super bad. You know, different
I
movies,
think
right?
that'll happen. I don't
You
know
know,
when
and it
or
goes
how
through
or,
its little
you know, there's
Yeah.
going to be something
life
that,
cycles.
One
you know?
day, it'll
right,
happen.
or
It'll
something,
hit.
just like music,
Something
you
will
know what I
hit.
mean?
Kick.
These underground or whatever things.
Well, we
that-
need one now,
yeah,
man.
and then eventually, please, you know, somebody come along and break through that again, you know, that makes it mainstream. You know what I mean? It becomes
Old
mainstream.
School. Old School was a big movie when it hit, you know,
yeah.
and that was
I
a
never
big
saw
deal,
Old School.
you know, and that was like a new, that like pushed the bar up a little
Mm-hmm.
bit, you know, and I mean that might have been like 05 or 06 or something.
So, John, are you going to make this film? Are you going to make the next great comedy film?
Oh,
do you have
man.
other
I do
films
wanna
in
do
your?
something that- I mean, I think people like to laugh. You know, I'm not sure which type of comedy. Probably something. You know, have you ever seen the show Misfits and Monsters? Bobcat Goldthwait. I
Oh,
think he
I
had
love
like one
Bobcat.
season or 2 seasons, like a couple years ago. It was
I
on
never
True
saw
TV.
his show though.
And they're just these little episodes. Mm-hmm. And to me, I thought it was really cool. But nobody else was really like, yeah. I'd tell people about it, and they're just like, oh, okay. I was like, man, it's good, and I thought it was really good, you know. But that's so right now I'm kind of like writing these little episodic things, and I have a few of them, and it's based on Florida folklore, but
Like
it's
Florida
distorted.
Man kind of thing.
Well, it's kind of like Fountain of Youth and Skunk Ape and Ghosts.
Oh
and-
yeah,
So that's
Skunk
cool.
Ape. Do you know my friend Ryan Justice?
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah.
Yeah, he made this from Skunk Ape.
Yeah, and there's a lot of people doing that, and or it has been done, Skunk Ape and stuff like that. And but I was kind of inspired by this Misfits and Monsters and Twilight Zone and Creep Show.
I was just gonna say, you talking something along the lines of like a Twilight Zone almost?
Yeah, so it's Florida folklore is what I'm thinking, you know. But then it's distorted, so it's kind of funny and disturbing, and you know, it's kind of what I'm
Cool.
going for, I guess. You know.
Okay,
And,
yeah.
you know, because I want to do something more.
That's an interesting mix to me.
Funny.
When you can
Yeah.
when you can mix comedy with something other than just on the nose, we're trying to be funny.
Right.
You know? Yeah, exactly.
Right.
You know, for
Right.
me, that draws me in more so than I would think any other kind of comedy. When you can toe the line and you can hit me with something really heavy and like, holy shit.
It catches
Like,
you off
this
guard.
really just happened,
Yeah,
you know,
right.
because you're kind of buying the comedy bit at the moment and then you go to this or vice versa, you know, it's like, that works, you know, that sounds pretty cool.
And it's a
I
little
gotta say.
disturbing, you know. But
Yes, but
Yeah.
that works. It's like the salty and the sweet, but you know, somehow it's like you can do the 1-2 punch and you can really mislead people. You know, you get a good red herring going with that kind of stuff. You know, get them looking over here, and then you know.
I don't know what I'm going to do with
Yeah.
them, but I mean, that's what I've been working on lately, just writing some stuff like that.
That's great, man.
And it's fun, you know, it's entertaining to me just to come up with it. Maybe you surprise yourself, because I don't know. I mean, I used to write little short stories and things like that, and Rocky Mountain Fast Guy was kind of born out of songs. So to sit down now and just have it be intentional about what I want to do is different, and it takes more. But yeah, that's what I'm kind of going for now. I'm like, I
Sweet.
want to make one of these, or 2 of them, or 3 of them, see what happens, you know.
Because I was talking to Tim before you came by, and I always worry about kind of like directors that do this one great project, and then it's like it was their whole life. You know, like making that project was a lot of their growing up, and you know, and they were forming this story that was really meaningful to them, and then after that's over, they don't know what to do next. You know.
Yes. Yeah, I know.
And
that
when I
feeling.
saw your film, I was worried. I was like, I wonder if this is, you know, what happened with John, is that this story was so meaningful and powerful but now you don't know what to do, and you're not sure if you're going to make another film or, you know. So I'm glad to hear that you're working on something else.
Yeah, and it took some time, you know.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't really thought about it, you know, maybe 2 years or something like that. You know, it was like you're absolutely right. It was like, okay, I did this. Now I don't know what to do because this is the only thing I've done for so long.
Yeah.
But it's such a huge undertaking, and there's so much to it that it was all about that focus. You know what I mean? So now it's like, starting to just sit down and just start writing, and then come back to these little stories. Now I'm starting to get that, you know, the juices flowing again, and I'm like, okay, these are different juices, though. You know what I mean? And it's like, that's what I want. I don't want to do the same thing over and over. You know,
That's awesome. Yeah.
and I don't know. I guess some people do. They tap into that, and it works for them. You know what I mean? But you want to excite yourself too, right? I mean,
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, you gotta be inspired to do it.
Yeah.
Get pumped. I had a question about the movie. One thing. So at the end of the movie, the guy, the producer, I think Rexford is his name, right?
Yeah.
Is he a bad guy, man? There's something weird about that last thing in the tunnel. Like is he cutthroat? Like he's just trying to, the guy dies and he's just trying to put these songs on the new, younger kid to like go out and perform them. I mean, is he?
I think the
What's his
thing
deal?
was with that I was trying to, you know, convey is that he's genuine and he understands. He likes music himself. You know, he's not just selling a product.
Okay.
But he understands the value of the product. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
But he's a record executive. So yeah, he wants to make money. He knows these songs are good.
Are gonna go. Yeah.
You know, so
Okay.
he's gonna find somebody to do these songs, and who else besides the guy that, you know, he knew
Yeah.
that he
It
talked
seemed to me like almost an unwritten agreement between the two musicians.
Right.
You know, seemed like he was kind of, by leaving his notebook with him, right?
Right.
He was in a way passing down these songs to this kid and saying like, you can do it, and like, I believe in you. And there was an ownership passing there in a way, an ownership of these songs that was happening. And there was also kind of an agreement with the letter, right?
Right.
So the letter was part of that. And was there some other element there that, do you feel that was?
Just the fact that he wanted to make sure, the new guy wanted to make sure that the old guy got credit.
Yeah, that
You
his
know what I
memory
mean?
was honored. Yeah.
And that his mother
Yeah.
was taking care of him.
But
There
see, that was
credit.
almost kind of the guy, the Rexford guy's like, oh yeah, no, like we're all good. Let's just go ahead with the show. Like,
Right.
get out there and perform. And
Right, I
let's,
think
let's
he
get
doesn't
these
want the
things
new
out
guy
there.
to worry.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, it was like I
Because
could tell
he's
kind
got
of
a
what was
lot
going
on
on there.
you know,
Yeah.
a lot at stake here, putting this
Yeah.
guy out in front of people and trying to make his money back. I guess.
Yeah.
I'm just off the cuff right now thinking about that, but yeah.
Is it
the
because that
second
scene was
time-
kind of dark?
Yeah, the
and-
second time
kind
watching
of
it,
impressed you that
stood
way?
out to me a little bit more.
Yeah.
Felt almost like maybe this guy's supposed to be a little, but every other interaction with him felt like he's, everything's on the table, man. Like
Yeah.
he seemed like a straight up kind of guy. But then something felt a little underhanded this time watching it.
Maybe it was just that scene in the beginning and end.
Yeah, and then,
in
how
that
you
dark
see it.
hallway.
Yeah,
It
he
seems
almost
kind of
feels like-
villainous in a way.
Yeah, a little bit, and he's like, oh no, it's all taken care of. I'm like, you son of a bitch. What are you doing there, man?
I think it's just
know.
that he's going to continue doing his job.
So he does
Whether
have
it's this
honorable
guy or the
intentions.
next
He's
guy.
not like a bad dude, right? I mean,
Yeah, no.
no, okay.
There's a legendary quality to that, I think, where he's this legendary producer that kind of like behind the scenes is making these legendary musicians come to life. And he's just the guy behind the scenes making it happen. So there was something that is real there to me, because I think that there's producers who do exist
Yeah.
in Nashville and in LA and in New York.
Totally. Yeah. I wanted him to have that vibe, but to also be, a lover of music rather than just the guy that's selling something.
I really like that because it demonstrates a lot of faith in places like Nashville, that they can really find truly talented people, and there's just like an innocent trust that these things really do happen. Like there's a belief that dreams can happen there, and that's why I liked the very ending, which is his death, because it's got, like you were saying, the sour and the sweet, or the salty and the sweet mixed together. I think those make really good endings.
It is bittersweet.
Yeah.
For sure.
That's just life, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, that guy kind of, he makes a few bad choices, man. It really is.
For
I mean,
sure.
that's his comeuppance coming, and it's like, it's tragic.
Is there
but
part of yourself in this?
at the same time, it's like, man,
Yeah,
Bad
hopefully
choices.
the ending is different. But yeah,
yeah, right.
my ending.
You could be a little more
Well,
brutal, and
Hopefully, at
some
least you'll treat your mother
screenwriting,
nice
but,
at the end.
Right. Yeah.
There's a couple times where it's like, all right. I remember thinking like, oh shit, man. But it's like, well, at the same time, he's kind of, I don't know. Maybe didn't deserve it, but you know what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, I hear
he
you.
did enough to where something was coming back around.
Your decisions will set you on a path,
Oh yeah.
And so, even if you're a good guy, you can make a bad decision,
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
or take advantage of a bad opportunity,
Yeah. Yeah, he is in a way kind of a Forrest Gump character, where there's
lots just kinda
there's good and
thrust
bad
upon
in
him.
there, right?
Yeah.
Except obviously this guy is like a good guy, and he's not stupid, obviously.
Right.
Like he's I think what I was talking about with the Nashville and the trust that these dreams do happen, I think that's the way he's kind of naive, but it pays off. And I like that kind of sentiment, because it really says that life isn't all out to get you and isn't all out to kill you. Like there are people who might want to kill you, right? But there's also people who want to benefit you, and who will make a deal on a handshake, and you can trust their word. Like those two people exist in the same place.
Yes.
And
I think so.
I think that's awesome. Like, we need more stories like that.
And the ones that you can't do a handshake deal shouldn't discourage you from finding the ones that will.
Yeah.
So I don't know what the word is, tenacity. I mean, he kept on going
He did.
because this is what he wanted to do, and he didn't know exactly how it worked either. He just knew that it worked for other people.
Yeah.
So however that was going to be, he was going to figure that out, or
Yeah.
at least die trying. I don't know, you know.
Yeah, I like that. I think that was my favorite part of the film, just this character, and that he kept going, kept trying. It's often how we are as filmmakers, right? It's like we just have to keep trying or die trying to get our films out there.
Yeah. What's
yeah.
the? I'm trying to think of the quote. There's a quote. Somebody, I think it's Bukowski. Charles Bukowski, right?
I don't
he said
know.
something about find whatever it is that you love and let it kill you.
Oh wow, I like that.
Yeah. So I don't know.
That's cool.
I guess
That's
I don't really
God,
have much
right?
more to say after that.
Mic drop.
Yeah, right. And I always thought that was cool because, like, yeah, work really hard at what you love, man. You know, spend
Yeah.
as much time as you can on the things you love. And don't worry about spend the least amount of time on the things that you hate. You know,
For sure,
or
yeah.
don't like. You know.
Wow. So any negative things you want to bring up, Tim? Anything that you were like, see, we're gonna just dump all over you.
Yeah, do it, man. Yeah.
Now we're
No, I'm just
buddies,
teasing.
man. Here we go. So, now, a couple times, one thing that kept catching me was focus, man. Like losing focus,
Yeah.
and it's like, that's just, I've been there, and I know that freaking feeling, man. You know, where it's like, Jesus Christ, and I don't have another option. You know, no other take is working, and I gotta go for the shot.
In the edit, you're
That
like,
doesn't have the
"Oh."
freaking focus, and it's
Yeah.
like it's a problem of a greater problem, you know, that I find in my little
sign of- yeah.
world of filmmaking is like I'm underlit, so I'm shooting too wide of an aperture. So, you know, the subject moves 2 inches further away from the lens. It's like
I
it's
know,
all
right?
shot to hell. So then I'm trying to move the camera to get closer or back further away, and now I've got to shake in the camera. So I got this really shitty, shaky, you know, underlit, you know, out of focus shot, and it's like Jesus. And I got to put this in my movie. I'm like,
With an
this
awesome
sucks,
performance. So,
man. Yeah, right. Yeah, it always comes at the worst time, right? And it's
They
like,
hit all their
damn it.
lines.
You know, it's like, and I know that feeling. I really do. So focus grabbed me a couple times. What I would say also, what I find like the most fascinating about this movie is also at times where I feel like maybe it came up a little bit short, was the scope, man. The sheer scope of this like undertaking of such a broad story that goes so many places and so many locations and so many people. And I think it's some place, I mean, I get a little particular with performances, man. I can't help it. It's like actors, I dig it. And I'm in there, and it's like when someone's hitting, I'm in it. And then when they're not quite there, it's like, man, it pulls me out of a viewing, 100%. So I felt like at times some of that, you know, that balance was a little off, but I got to take my hat off to you just for even the, you know, going for it, man, for that scale of a picture. I mean, it's crazy.
And you know,
Honestly,
I'm
God.
watching what you're watching. You know what I mean? So, and I'm aware of it, and I know, you know, you take chances on things, you know, and sometimes they blow you away, and sometimes you're like, okay, that was good.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I'll take it.
And it's like, I had such a good experience with everybody. I can't say anything bad about anyone.
Oh, I hear you.
know?
That's just it. You know them, and it's like, so yeah.
Yeah.
And I was pulling friends in and
Yes,
people that I know are
absolutely.
music performers. I'm like, well, you're performing in front of people, you
Yeah,
know,
right.
or whatever. Or I mean, there was times it was like, you're looking for a particular character and you see somebody that might be that character, and I would approach them and go, hey, have you ever done any acting before? You know, because they look exactly
They
like,
have that
you know,
look.
they're acting, their mannerisms or whatever. And it got to the point where, you know, my wife was like, I'll be in the car. So I'm like, I'm going to go up and talk to this guy. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh, I've been there.
And
yeah.
it was like,
Oh, yeah.
I didn't necessarily look for actors all the time. Maybe I was looking for the person that was already that person, you know, and
Yeah.
just, like, say, rolling the dice.
Yeah, man, you gotta fill the. That's what I was saying. It's also it's that double-edged sword, man. To where it's like it is such a broad story that comes off most of the time, you know, successfully. And then there's times where there's so many people involved where it's like there's some that aren't necessarily maybe up to bar, especially when you have other people coming in that are setting a bar.
That's
you
the
know,
thing. That's
and
what I was
then
gonna say, yeah.
when you're, you know, butting those two scenes up against each other, it's like, oh shit, man, that'll be all right. maybe
you don't
not
know
quite
until
as
that
much,
happens
right?
either.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
you're like,
Yeah.
oh, that was good until you see this.
Yeah,
and you're
until
like,
it's
that
like,
was great.
right? And you're like your buddy in Mexico, I mean, it's
Yeah.
like, geez,
Yeah.
you know, I mean, Donnie Stash jumts out to me. I had a kick out of that guy, man. I enjoyed
Yeah.
that part. The mother, you
Which
know,
part?
I thought she, Donnie
No.
Stash, right?
Donnie Stash.
Right? Hi, I'm
Johnny
Donnie
Cash.
Stash, right?
Yeah.
That's
Isn't that his
right.
name,
Mark
Donnie
Troy.
Stash?
Yeah.
Yeah, Mark Troy.
You know,
Yeah.
that's like a fun part of the movie. I enjoy the hell out of that whole bit that happens there. You know?
Yeah.
I love
So
the I
there's a
am not
lot
an impersonator.
on the movie. Yeah,
That's a
right.
real
It's
thing,
like-
right? Yeah.
It's like that's his, you know, his code, man. It's like, don't you dare call me a, you know, an impersonator, right? What does he want to be called?
Yeah, he's a tribute.
He's a
artist.
tribute act.
Tribute
Yeah,
artist.
tribute
Yeah.
artist. There you go.
Yes.
Right.
You know, so
I can see that,
I enjoyed that, you know. So there's parts where, to me, sometimes that scale is like kind of bit you in the butt a little bit with some of the stuff involved with
Yeah.
it. And I just think the sheer scope of it, how many days of shooting, how many different locations. I mean, there's little things that I really enjoy. Like I was telling you when we were watching it recently, when you get out of jail and you get back to your mom's house and you're digging through your room and you're collecting all the shit. And it's all really like fast moving, but it's really tangible. I do this a lot when I'm making a movie. I love showing people's hands. I love showing them like interacting with objects in a space, moving around, and just inhabit that, you know, the physical presence and the acting in the moment. You know,
Yeah,
there's
I
something
love
about
stuff
that
too,
that
man.
really just
like B-roll or whatever.
works.
it is.
You know, it's like
It brings you into the action.
somehow,
of the
yeah, I
scene,
like seeing people's hands working with things. I think it's a whole nother level, like a new layer of you know, like an access point for a viewer. It's like, you know, these objects and what they might feel like in that
You don't need
tension
to
and
see
that
their
pace.
face to see them acting.
At all, yeah.
No.
Yeah, so even something like that I was watching and be like, damn, that was done really well, I thought. You know, like
Yeah.
the shooting. It felt like sometimes the shooting was more composition focused and minded, and then sometimes was a little more like, well, let's just freaking, we gotta go.
A lot of that too has to do
You know.
with time.
Yeah.
I mean, other times we were able to do an experiment, but sometimes you get what you get, and time to move on. We don't have a choice. Whatever we got, we got. And there was a couple times I was worried because I was like, man, I really wanted to do this or that or try this again in a different way, but you don't get to. So you have to make the best of it, you know.
Yeah.
And so you get some of that fallout, you know what I mean? And then, like you're saying too, you get 60 people in a film, you know.
You got a lot of that.
Then what's your percentage of great versus adequate or good, or you know?
Right.
Definitely.
Hopefully there's nothing like absolutely horrible.
No, but I mean,
No.
especially when you have that many going on, like we just said, it's like when you have somebody who really stands out, there's going to be that lull when the next person comes on who might not hit that bar the same way. It's like you see that a little more when you have that. And I come from this world of trying to strip something down and make it as minimal as possible, you know? And it's like, damn, that this guy even attempted this. It's like, kind of, you know, I was impressed by it. So like I say, what I find some negative in is also where I'll find the most
You understand?
positive, right?
Yeah.
Is like, that's the ambition behind it. And I think also the execution, you know, overall was like, man, I really enjoyed the picture, you know?
That's awesome.
Yeah, man.
Well, you see that in big movies too. I've seen focus issues, and I've seen.
B-roll stuff. All of a sudden you get a shot
Yeah.
and you're like, damn, that's a much lesser camera, right? This used to be more of a thing like in the early 2000s.
Yeah, the
but
B camera
You would see
stuff.
at times where they throw in that B-roll and it's like, damn, that doesn't have that same crisp, you know, clean image
Yeah.
as the,
Yeah.
you know, it's like, okay, I see what's going on.
And that's another luxury. You
That's
don't
just-
always have
Gotta throw
the
some shit in there, man.
right, and you don't always have the same. I mean, we were dealing with some. You know, Wheat wasn't where he was supposed to be because he had, you know,
Yeah,
kidney
stuff
issues and
going
stuff.
on,
I mean,
yeah.
we were in
Oh,
his
really?
hospital
Yeah.
room, storyboarding. You know, I mean, the guy was
Wow.
nonstop, which and he
That's hardcore.
And he got other camera people to fill in for him. Taylor Gerard, you know, Sage.
That's right, his friend Sage. Yeah.
Yeah, Sage, Kid Ron, Mark Farag, you know, Joseph Boyle. So we had, you know, it was great when it happened, you know, to have these relationships and have these good people. But I didn't know what was.
Yeah.
Wheat was in charge. He knew, you know, these people, and he knew who to. Hey, can you?
I hand it to him. To just have a few bad focus moments, I mean, for Wheat to be able to pull that off even was amazing. You know,
Yeah,
and
and I
have
think some of
kidney
those I was
issues.
like, but I like this take, you know.
Yeah,
And then you know.
It's
But that
sometimes,
does-
and you can, sometimes it
It's a little
works,
softer, yeah.
But even still, sometimes you can mess around with focus somewhat, and it comes off as, it feels like it's intentional, at
Right,
times,
yeah.
Right.
But there are just a couple times where it's like, okay, focus issues. I know that son of a gun.
Yeah, that was
That's
one of
that
them for me
same old
too.
monkey on my
No,
back,
but you're
you know?
absolutely
It's
right.
like
Yeah.
simple
That was one,
things,
and
man.
then also the gay guys. To me, it was cute, but it was a little over the top for me. I was
Okay.
like, because it felt like they were trying a little too hard, and that took me a little bit out of it. You know.
Yeah.
And oh man,
That may have been me too, because I was telling Michael, I was like, I was like, hey, I want you to be, over the
as
top,
flamboyant as possible. Yeah.
and he really is gay. You know what I mean? And-
Okay.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
I know. So
Yeah.
and I did the one little short with him, and so I met him, and then he just popped into my mind, and so when I was talking to him, I was like, I'm not calling you because you're gay. I'm calling you because you're a good actor, and because he really is.
That's
you
good.
know. And he's just an awesome dude. He's really cool, and so is Christopher. They're real cool, and so I just remember telling him, I'm like, just really pour it on thick. And I was telling Christopher, I'm like, you're the level-headed one. You just be cool. I'm like, Michael, I just want you to, get crazy with it. And he's like, is that too over the top? I go, I don't think it can be, And so it might have been me getting a little excited,
Maybe, yeah, maybe a little
encouraging
bit.
him to just go that extra.
Right.
To be animated and a little bit,
A little silly, yeah.
Yeah, a little silly. But I can see that.
That's
yeah.
funny. Yeah. So I guess he gets a pass since he really is gay, but.
Yeah.
But it's just, I don't know, it felt like, it's almost like I can see someone being like, how can you, the gay guy, act like the stereotypical gay guy and really be gay?
Right.
Like, how does that work? Because
Yeah.
you can see that other gay people might be like, oh, you just made us all look this way.
I
like.
there was a guy at the premiere that was a friend of another friend of mine's, and he got kind
A
of
little
miffed
offended?
about it or whatever. And I was like, oh, we're just stereotyping.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's what movies are. That's what
It
characters
really is.
are.
Yeah.
That's what
You know,
comedy is.
And I told Michael about that later when we were in Orlando. I go, yeah, somebody got a little upset over that, thinking we were stereotyping and being it. And Michael was like, don't worry about that. He's like, this is acting. This is he got it.
That's good. He's a champ.
He is,
Yeah.
and he's a good actor too. I mean, he's done he's probably done things. I can't think. He's got Inheritance, a film that's just coming out now,
Oh,
a new
yeah.
one that he did.
Cool.
And I'm thinking he's probably acting better in that than me encouraging him to go over the top. Be this flamboyant. But he played along.
It's funny.
He's
though,
in there. What do you want? You know what I mean?
No, the whole. I like the setup of it and everything. Coming out of the restaurant with that, and you got the shirt on.
Yeah.
The bar. What
big
the hell?
Dick's
Is,
Bourbon.
yeah,
Oh
right.
man, yeah. I love your shirt.
And it's like, I get it.
They were
I
so
get
cool to play along with all that too, because it's kind of a
Yeah.
little sensitive. But it's
fun.
that's. I mean,
I
that's
know.
comedy,
It's not
man.
the only like stereotype that
No.
you kind of went after in the movie. Like, come on.
Oh, I know.
We got to be able to laugh at ourselves
Oh,
a little
yeah.
bit here, right?
Yeah.
Hey, you should be able to anyways.
But
I love the cops bit. The cop. That's like, let me put this into evidence.
that's Donnie
He puts
Stash's
the
part,
thing from
man.
the
That's
bag
a good
into a bigger bag.
Yeah.
That's a friend of mine, Kelly Shaver. He's like a death metal pioneer. He's in
Wow.
a band named Atheist.
Yeah.
And they've been around for almost 30 years, and
Wow.
he's a pioneer of technical death metal, and a friend of mine, and he's just another performer, and he's not shy about smoking weed and everything, and always has, and so I was like, wouldn't that be funny, man?
You were the cop.
Yeah, so I called him up. I was like, dude, I want you to play this part, and I told him about it. You're like this rogue cop that smokes weed or whatever, and he's like, okay, I'm in. And so he came out there in the middle of nowhere where we did this, and out by Wauchula. And so we could get away with having a police car on the road. And
Oh yeah, nobody
things like
nobody
that,
notices. Yeah.
so we had to find someplace that was kind of desolate. And I thought he did great, man. I was like, dude,
Yeah, he did.
nailed it, you know what I mean? And he kind of added his own flavor to it too, and I think he came up with the Conway and the
Oh, I
Devil's
did-
Lettuce.
Oh yes, the devil's lettuce.
Yeah,
That
I
was
remember
great.
hearing it. I was like, damn, I've never heard that before. That's pretty
A
good.
little bit of the
So I
devil's
just let him
lettuce.
do his thing, man, and
Yeah.
it was great. I thought he did perfect. It was like, man, that's better than I thought it was gonna
Yeah.
be.
I love when he pulled out the test kit. He's like, let me get on my test kit.
Yeah.
It's got it in this nice little box, just
Yeah.
prepared for these moments, you know.
And I just thought it was cool that anybody that did know him would think that was even more hilarious, being, knowing that, he's open about smoking weed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And all that kind of stuff. So,
He was perfect for this role.
yeah.
It's great. But yeah, I didn't really have a lot of other issues with it. I mean, it's a lot of fun.
I remember, I think that was it, man. Honestly,
Especially as a first film. I mean, I think all first films are going to have some technical issues here and there. Because, you don't have a ton of money to throw at people. So it's like you're going to have a few of the craftsmen just kind of fall through the cracks every now and then. You be happy
and a
just to get what
production
you
that
got.
goes on that long, like you say. I mean,
Yeah.
You had different cameramen at different times, right?
Yeah.
From what
Whereas,
understand what you were saying.
months in between, different things. And then, you'd be surprised what you're finding at the end, too. Like, we got to figure out a way to fix this, you know what I mean? Or we need to cut this down, so what are we going to do? So now you have to manipulate the conversation in a way with maybe, B-roll or something to interject in there and break up whatever it is you're trying to redesign.
Yeah.
Which is kind of cool. It's a challenge. It's like, wow, if people saw originally some of that stuff and then saw what we did afterwards, they'd be like, oh, how'd you even think of that? And it's like, well, because we had 4 years to think about it, as you're doing it. And,
Yep.
Yeah. Did you reshoot a bunch, like, in the editing process, or did you just, when you wrapped, you were done, or were you editing as you went because it went on so long?
Yeah, we
so
would
you were
do
Oh,
like
yeah.
some rough
Yeah.
edits
Makes
as
sense.
we were
Okay.
see what we had and what we were, and then
Yep.
to, your ideas would come up, and then you'd say, what would be cool? Can we get him back out there next Sunday or next weekend, and we're gonna shoot this again, but we want him to do this, and then we'll just put it in with this footage, things
That's
like
awesome.
that.
So you were doing that along the process?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
So at the same time, and then there was things
That's
that
cool.
there was a year that passed, and we were like, oh, let's change this, and so you go shoot this to put this in there instead. And a lot of that was wheat, man, because I was like to the point where I was like, that's good. I'm like, that's good, and he's like, nah.
He's
I
like,
don't
we can do better.
Yeah, and he would challenge me, and then I'm like, okay.
I love
So
that about him.
I do too, man. It was like he'll bring the best out of you. You know what I mean? And
He always wants it to be better.
and
Even
being
if it's not
completely
going to
honest
get,
with each other,
even if he's not going to get any credit or money from it, he's just like so giving in that way, and he wants it to just be as good as it can be.
That's what I'm saying. For all the right reasons, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I'm sure he deserves, more than he got as far as like monetary and
Right.
all this kind of thing, But
People like him, yeah, you're totally right.
right, they're not getting what they're worth.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But it's great when you know people like that, and then we became such good friends throughout
Yeah.
this whole. You work with somebody like that closely, and you go through all. There was some dark times with him and his kidney illness
Yeah.
and everything, where it just wasn't looking good, man.
Yeah.
So. And then there were so many laughs too. It's like this manic ride for years, and there's so many behind the scenes stories that we have that, and there's people that are like, oh man, you should make a documentary on making the film.
Yeah.
Just because I've told them the story, and it's like, oh,
Excuse me.
and I don't even know if that's how a lot of films are done, or that they have. I'm sure there is adversity and
Oh man, yeah.
Yeah.
of similar proportion.
Yeah.
But I just know mine, ours. So
Yeah, I've heard other people's stories, and a lot of them are like this one, especially the kind of local indie kind of flavor. And someone with a strong enough vision like yours, you just keep pushing through, and that's just going to end up being a long process. You
get to the point where it's like you just have to. I don't care how long this takes. We're not gonna stop until it's done. you know. And that's, I mean, I tell that to my kids, and I learned that by this, and, you know, being in bands and trying to get record deals and things like that. It's like, as long as you keep doing it, something will happen.
Yeah.
I don't know what that's going to be. I don't know if it's going to be good or bad. You know, I don't know if you're going to get rich or poorer. You know, but something's going to happen if you keep doing it.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah.
I like that.
And so you're going to have stories, you're going to have memories, if nothing else.
Very true. Good advice. Well, I think we have done pretty well. What do you guys think?
Yeah, that was fun. I don't know, did we cover everything?
We might
so.
have.
Everything and more?
I'm trying to think if there was something else. Did you have anything else you were thinking?
You know, I mean, I was thinking of talking about Film Bar Mondays a little bit, but we've got other times to talk about that. I mean,
I was thinking about the movie. Damn it, I feel like there was something else I wanted to talk about. Oh boy, this is what I get for not taking notes. Shit. Yeah.
no, it's cool.
Well,
And-
are you guys doing the Film Bar meetings again?
We
At
are.
some point?
We're doing them twice a month instead of 4 times the way we used to be. And we're getting like a few people out each time, so it's a little rough. I mean, you know, we have just a few people like in the local area, the Clearwater area. It's me and Tim and maybe 2 other guys who sometimes come out.
Sometimes, yeah.
If we get
Sometimes
lucky, we
me
get
and John.
a few more. Yeah,
Maybe the COVID thing's putting a damper on stuff right now, but
It
if
really
pick
is.
Back up, you know.
but I mean, we got to work. We got to do a lot of things, you know. And I mean, if someone came out and had a mask on, I wouldn't hate them for it. You know, it's like, come on.
I mean, people got to make that
Sure.
choice on their own, you
Yeah.
know? It's like, hey, I don't have a problem. Just don't.
Don't cough on us.
Don't tell me to wear a mask. No.
But we all knew that before COVID. Don't cough in people's faces, you know. It's
No,
kind
but
of
it's
normal.
just gotten a little weird. It even felt like it was
Yeah.
going a little bit in that trajectory even before COVID a bit. It's like, where is everybody, man?
Yeah.
You know? It's kind of like a shame. Like, I know
It
you're
is.
out there, you know? I know you exist.
I know, right?
So
I mean,
People are
I-
going to be wanting to get
I
back
try to
out
contact
and do
them.
things, and you know, and hopefully making films and meeting up again, and you know,
It's like, man, what else can you ask for? Get people sitting around in a room like talking about movies. I mean, something's gonna do it long enough. Something's gonna come out
That's
of it,
right,
right?
yeah.
I mean, I don't know if it's gonna be good or it's gonna be bad, but something's gonna come out.
I met a lot
right?
of people at the Minnesota Films thing, you know, and when that was going on, and I think it still is, but just not a regular thing. And I remember something about Film Bar Mondays, and I was like, I need to get up there to one of those, you know,
Cool.
just so you can meet people, and not you know, like-minded people that you're not in competition. You're only in competition with yourself, and they're there to help you, and you're
Right.
there to help them. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel the same way about that. You know, we're really just there to support each other and be like a safety net for each other. You know, and I mean, there's always an element of good competition if it's good. You know, there's been directors in the past,
and
you
the
know,
idea that
like
you push yourself, you
Yeah.
know, because of that. Like
You push
somebody,
yourself, exactly.
You make a movie, John, and you bring it, we watch it, and it's like, damn, look at what John was able to do, man. And then I try to, you know, do this, and I make something, and then John's like, wow, look at Tim did, man.
But if someone else succeeds, you don't
that
like
kind
hate
of
him for it.
competition, not like, oh,
You know?
No,
come
you want to be
check out my
inspired by
movie,
your
you
peers,
know,
for
you little
sure,
peer,
yeah.
you know, yes. Like pushing the bar, that little by little, and everybody kind of builds on
You know, I mean, what did we learn when we did group sports when we were kids, right? You did team sports. The other team wins, you shake their hand.
Yeah.
You say, good job. You know, it feels like we've lost a little bit of this kind of like camaraderie and kindness.
Yeah.
But because it's for a good reason. You know, it's so we all get better. And if instead we're kind of like staying in our little corner and we're not like communicating with each other and we're all on social media and we're all doing, you know, like we all think we're an island, you know? I mean, what did they say? You're not an island.
Right.
It's not that difficult, you know? Like, so we all think we're islands now, and we can make a film by ourselves. Like, it's ridiculous. You know, like film is the most collaborative art form.
It is
It's the most vital
collaborative.
art form for a reason.
Should be plugged into a community, man.
Yeah,
Yeah, all ideas come from
Yeah.
other ideas.
It helps,
right?
man.
yeah.
Throw
Other
some shit
people.
at the wall and see what sticks.
Right.
you know?
Yeah,
Do it together. I don't know.
yeah. Me and you are talking about doing some stuff together
Yeah.
now.
Just
you
get
know?
something off the ground, man.
Yeah.
You know?
Working on a Western script.
If I could, yeah, that too. If I could ever finish my little Western short one of these freaking days, man. Good Lord.
Well, I'm in between projects because of my kids, having kids and everything is really, because I'm basically the stay-at-home, so it means I'm committed, to what they're doing, and we homeschool and all this stuff. So, and COVID's been part of that, but it's also just been like life, my situation has made it to where I have to focus in on what they're doing, and they're that age. They're not like your kids, John, where they're like 12 and 16, right? Mm-hmm. Mine are like 1 and 4 and 8. So, especially the 1 and 4 year olds, just like.
There's a lot going on.
I gotta throw my kid on the couch every day, because it's fun.
Yeah.
But it lets them know I'm there for them. But I'm working on scripts as well. Yeah. I'm trying to get back to working on scripts, and I hope to help you make your Western, Tim.
Yeah.
And
I hope to watch it.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey,
sure.
If you want to be involved,
Hey, you never know.
Yeah. Yeah. So let us know. You were talking about your scenes you're working on.
Your episodic deal.
Yeah, my episodes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting, man.
Throw stuff our way if you want to. If you're like, what do you think of this scene? Or, you could come to Film Bar, or you could email us or whatever.
Yeah.
We'll be honest.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah. That's what you need too. I mean, you shouldn't be offended. It's like my friend Scott, I was telling. I mean, I used to take songs to him or little stories, parts of the script when we were writing that, and it's just because he's a creative, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And we're friends, and so he'd tell me, no, that kind of sucks, or he'd be like, that's so cool, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's like, you need that. You need somebody to be. You don't want everybody telling you that you're great.
No,
that's not
How
going to
boring.
help you improve.
I mean, what good is that going to do for any of us?
Right.
If you're just like, oh man, you're the best, you're so good. No, come on, man.
It's like, come on, you're my friend.
Give me,
what do you mean?
Yeah.
Right.
Give it to me
Right.
straight, man. Don't bullshit me,
Right.
basically. Yeah.
I love that scene from Saturday Night Live. I forget the comedian's name. He's like, give it to me straight. Don't mince words with me. And he's like, you're all washed up. There's nothing left.
I don't think I've seen that one.
No.
Really?
He's like, this is terrible. He's like, no, just give it to me straight. It's okay. You can tell me.
Yeah.
They just keep going back and forth like that.
I am. Right.
It's so great. That was back when Saturday Night Live was
Actually
pretty good. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, guys, it's been great. We'll have you back if you want to come back sometime. And
Yeah. Thanks for having me. I just let everybody know that's listening that you can watch it on Amazon Prime, Rocky Mountain Fast Guy. The soundtrack is on Spotify and Amazon,
Awesome.
Apple Music and everything. Just Google it, Rocky Mountain Fast Guy. You'll find the soundtrack and yeah. So yeah,
awesome.
thanks for
That was
having me,
perfect.
man.
Thank you. I didn't even have to tell you to do that because
Appreciate it.
Good title too, man. By the way,
Yeah,
that
I
was
love
one
it.
of the damn things I wanted to say. I like the title.
Rocky Mountain Fast
Hey
Guy.
man,
it's
it's,
Rocky
it's the
Mountain
first
Fast
impression.
Right.
It kind of catches your attention. Be like, what's that all about?
Mm-hmm.
Good title.
It works.
Thanks.
So watch that film because it's a good film. It's a lot of fun. All right, man. Good to see you guys.
Yeah, you too.
Till next time.
This has been John Croft and Tim Mannix wishing you happy, trouble-free filmmaking to our film community, and happy networking at Film Bar Mondays. Rocky Mountain Fast Guy, Episode 2 of the Film Bar Review. Rocky Mountain Fast Guy can be seen for free on Amazon Prime and hear the soundtrack on Spotify. The Film Bar Review is made in association with the local Florida and Georgia-based film networking events called Film Bar Mondays, which takes over bars and breweries on Monday nights to bring filmmakers and actors together across the spectrum of experience to have a drink, discuss the industry and our battle stories. In this case, we're discussing locally made films. We critique them, and we give a voice to the people who work on them. Join us Monday nights in cities like Atlanta, Georgia, Jacksonville, Florida, and Tampa, Florida, to have a drink and talk film. Reach out at thefilmbarreview@gmail.com and find Film Bar Mondays at our various group pages on Facebook.